All right, hello everyone. Again, this is Don Harkey from People Centric Consulting Group. We're doing this series of videos called Survive to Thrive, which is surviving to thriving, which is going to be helping organizations to survive today in order to thrive tomorrow. I know a lot of us in this crisis are focused on what are we doing right now, what do we need to do, how do we need to react to this, but there's going to be another side to this. And so how do we prepare ourselves into the future? What lessons can we learn? Where can we go next? So we've been pulling together various experts, people in different fields to be able to give us some great insight. And I've got another expert with us today. He's my good friend, James Lea. James, how are you, sir?
I'm great, sir. How are you, Don?
Oh, good, good. Really super appreciate your time because I'll tell you what, accountants right now are getting their butts kicked. Trying to get an accountant to do an interview on April 1st in a normal situation is difficult. So James, really appreciate your time. James Lea is the partner and CPA and financial advisor at Sandford, Lea and Associates, based in Springfield. Sandford Lea provides bookkeeping, accounting advice, payroll services, tax preparation, and business valuations. And James is also, he's our accountant and advisor and also serves as an honorary member of our People-Centric Advisory Council. So our topic today is just going to be around cash flow, financials, and what businesses can do. So first of all, James, just really appreciate your time here. One of the worst things about this crisis is how this is impacting everyone in so many different businesses. Also, one of the best things about this crisis is that it's impacting everyone. So we're kind of all in this together right now. What kinds of general advice are you just giving to organizational leaders? Let's just start big picture right now in terms of what they should be thinking about.
I mean, sometimes, Don, I've talked to you, I've talked to, me and my business partner, David, have tried to contact darn near every business client we have. And a lot of times right now, it's just, they're just happy to talk to somebody. I mean, because as business owners, a lot of the time we just get stuck in that we don't know who to talk to, don't know who to call. So if you're just struggling in general or just having a bad day or just don't know what to do, I mean, just my recommendation would be lean on your advisors, give them a call, talk to them, give us some grace, we'll call you back. But I mean, just really lean on your inner circle of people that, help you out, maybe just once or twice a year, give them a call, because we've just been trying to reach out and just trying to brighten somebody's day, because right now for a lot of businesses and some industries, it's really bleak right now.
Yeah. I think that's great advice for anybody that does business to business, right? We've been working with sales teams who are like, it's not really okay to sell stuff aggressively right now, but can you just call people and say, are they okay? What do you need? How can we serve you?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, just like for example, the other day, I was discussing with some other business owners, just, now's not the time to be going out and beating the streets and selling, your product or whatever. Now's the time to just reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family doing? What can we do for you? And what resources can we provide to you to help make decisions right now?
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. That's great advice. So I think the government's been busy. They just passed the largest stimulus package in history, $2 trillion. That's more money than I make in a year. And this is my accountant, he could tell you that's true.
Brilliant. It rolls off the tongue differently than billion, doesn't it?
It sure, I mean, $2 trillion, it's just like, I don't know, $2 billion is almost unfathomable. So $2 trillion is just a lot of money.
It's a lot.
But there is some real help potential for businesses. I know a lot of businesses who are watching right now are struggling in lots of different areas. And I've talked to businesses, even as recently as today, who are trying to figure out how do I get resources, how to make payroll, all those kinds of things. Look, our purpose of this call is not to sum up all of the things that are in there in the CARES Act, but what are some things that you think that business folks should be doing in terms of that right now to probably get their minds around what things are in there to benefit them?
Correct. So what I've been working with a lot of local banks here and even regional and national banks here with a lot of my clients. And what you see right now is just, I mean, it's going to be a hurry up and wait because you can submit some of this application as soon as Friday. So things that you should be working on is I'd reach out to your accountant and your banker. And if you haven't done that, you need to do that today. Second, I'd probably start gathering information. I know you've been very proactive yourself in gathering payroll data and making sure that your banker has all your up-to-date records as far as tax returns and financial statements if need be. Those are great things to go ahead, be proactive, have them compiled, or have your accountant help you compile those.
That's great. And I think that's a good resource that we could put out together as a tool on our crisis toolkit site of some things that we could pull together. I know we've gotten some different lists from different people. We could put together just a quick list of some things initially.
I think that's a great idea, Don.
I think that would be a good resource. And then, so let's talk a little. So there's lots of opportunities out there. Talk to your banker, talk to your accountant. You know, I've talked to businesses who haven't done that yet, and that's a bad idea.
Bad idea.
Lots of ideas. You know, as we start to think about, as businesses, we get really excited about revenue and always get focused on like, what things can I sell now? How do I bring in more revenue on that? But there's also really big opportunities on the expense side. You know, one of the things that we help businesses to understand is that, you know, if you think about your margin, $1 worth of revenue is not equal to $1 saved in expenses. If you save if you lose $1 in revenue, that's not $1 in profit. But if you lose $1 in expenses, that does help your profit directly. So what kinds of things do you think businesses can do here in the short run to be able to really help get their expenses under control?
No, I think that's a great point there, Don, about your expenses. A lot of what I'd recommend is just, open up your profit and loss, you know, your P&L, take a look at it. And in today's society, and you know this a lot, Don, in today's society, we get stuck into paying all these subscriptions. You know, that's a way a lot of software companies like to run, is on subscriptions, which is totally fine. And I totally understand it and totally get it. But sometimes a lot of clients just forget, oh man, I'm still paying for that software that I don't use, or man, I forgot that I have 12 licenses of Microsoft Office 365 and we only have 5 people right now. So those are some just easy ways. I mean, open up your P&L, take a look at those recurring expenses and see what you can start cutting there to start with. Because I bet you a lot of people have 2 or 3 pieces of expenses on a recurring basis that they just totally forgot about, that, man, that's still coming out of my bank account.
Yeah. We've done that recently and found quite a bit in there, and we had done it last year. And so, I mean, it's amazing how that stuff just kind of sneaks in there.
You know, what's really amazing is when you get a credit card or something, or the expiration changes, and then you start getting all these phone calls about the stuff not going through. And then you realize real quickly how much is getting charged to there, with, you know, people calling you like, hey, your subscription got declined. And it's you learn really quick.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. I think we've all had that experience before. Talk a little bit about, like, for those of us who owe other people's stuff and you're really struggling with cash flow, sometimes a tendency is to kind of like insulate yourself and not talk to anybody. But for those people who are struggling to pay things like rent or pay loans off or things like that, what advice do you have for those folks?
You know, probably one thing we haven't touched on yet is we're all in this together. I mean, everybody is in the same position. Your landlord's in the same position, that they got people that probably can't make rent. You know, your mortgage company's probably in the same position. Everybody's in the same position in this situation. So I think the biggest thing is just reach out to them. Reach out to your banker and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make that loan payment next month. What are my options? Because I think if you get to talking to them, there are options for people out there. And you just got to be upfront with them. You got to be truthful and you got to be honest. And I think that will go a long ways. Don't try to hide where you're at right now. Be truthful with yourself and where you're at. And if you're, you know, just like your landlord, go to your landlord and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling, you know, revenue shut off or closed down. What can you do for me? And I think I found very few people that are not going to work with you to help you out to get you through this situation.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic advice. I know you gave me that advice a few weeks ago, and I've made some calls and talked to folks, and you're right. Everyone you talk to is very much willing to work with you. I know we've worked with people too, so that's fantastic advice. You know, as we think about getting through this crisis too, there's the crisis period and there's going to be a recovery period. You know, we've certainly we were questioning maybe whether we were heading towards a recession already. I think if we weren't already in it and now we've really triggered it, I mean, this could get deeper for a little while. You know, I know a lot of business owners are asking me the question of saying, okay, I can go get these disaster loans. I can open up lines of credit. I can dip into my personal assets, things like that. What advice do you have in terms of people like are asking the question, like how much debt is too much debt? What should I consider? When should I just call it and say, okay, this isn't going to work anymore?
You know, to be honest, a lot of that is personal preference. I mean, I always use this scenario of, can you sleep at night with it? Because a lot of people hate debt. A lot of people can thrive in debt. Me personally, I'm one of those people that don't thrive real well with a ton of debt. I'm fine with a certain amount of debt, but once it gets to a certain point, I mean, as a business owner, those are things that keep you up at night. And especially right now for the people that before this crisis had a lot of debt, and now they're really feeling the pressure and the stress, of that. So I think a lot of it is how much can you cash flow, and working with your trusted advisor to have them help explain to you, how much is too much or when it's getting out of control. And, to a certain extent, how much you can live with personally.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. And a lot of people are struggling with that, and they want some help doing that, and they can get help doing that, talking to folks.
Exactly.
What about businesses that maybe entered into this whole crisis not in the healthiest spot, that were already struggling? I know there's a lot out there. Should they jump into more debt at this point, or what's your advice for them?
I think my advice for them is to sit down and really look at it and just be honest with yourself. If you were struggling before you were coming into this crisis and you look at it now, and we'll just take, for example, the CARES Act that came out last week, and you think that this is really going to help you get through this crisis, I think you need to consult with your advisor on just making sure that that's the right plan for you, because you could be in a situation, Don, where you could just be racking up more debt.
Yeah, yeah. But you're going to have to pay off someday. That's just going to be a deeper hole to dig out of in the future.
You got it. And I feel like a lot of people coming out of, let's just, for us here in Springfield, Missouri, let's just say we're shut down right now until April 30th. What happens if we come out and we're shut down until June 30th? None of us have the crystal ball to reach out and say, hey, this is when we're going to be back up and operational. Because, the longer you keep going, the more you're possibly racking up before, you got to make the decision on whether can you reopen, and do you have enough cash flow and profits when you reopen to start paying that debt that's acquired over the days that you have not been generating anything.
Yeah, yeah, and be realistic about what does reopen really mean. Is it suddenly, the economic machine doesn't just flip on and off very easily. It's going to take some time.
For example, I think about the restaurant industry. I feel bad for everybody in the restaurant industry because, we don't know how people are going to react when they say they give us the go and your local restaurant can open up, or your local, watering hole opens up. Are as many people going to go out and visit that place, or are we all still going to be cooped up a little bit in our own home?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a good reminder for all of us too, that if you do have funds and you do have the means right now, support your local businesses. We're heading out I know my wife just left to go to Neighbor's Mill to get some food for us for lunch. So we keep supporting the local restaurants as much as we can, because we want them around when we come back, because we love what they do.
Exactly. We all want those guys around to be here when we get back, and yeah, go out there, support your local restaurants, support your local businesses, try to buy gift cards and different things like that to help them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's think a little bit as we strive to switch from thriving or surviving to thriving. That's where I'm trying to head towards. What are some of the lessons that you think we can learn from here as business owners in terms of our understanding of our own business, in terms of how we think about how we do business in the future, in terms of recovery? What are some of the advice that you have that comes to mind?
I mean, some of the advice that I have that comes to mind is the best thing to do is to know your numbers inside and out. I mean, it's great that you can rely on people like myself But sometimes, like yourself, Don, you know the numbers better than me. I know your numbers pretty well, but you can come to me and say, hey, James, this person's dropping off, or I'm adding this client, and you know exactly how that affects you. And I think that's very important for most business owners to know not only what your top line number is as far as revenues, but how much of that is really going to the bottom line, and how much you're really making. So the important thing is, and I hope what everybody learns in this is get to know your numbers a little better. And if you need help with that, reach out to your accountant, because they should be able to walk you through and explain to you how you're profitable and how you make money and how much of the revenues you're generating are really profit for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And this last year, our company started playing the great game of business. That's been done a lot for us. It's helped me understand our business better. It's helped our employees to understand it. And as we've gone through the crisis, I've already seen our team make adjustments without really my direction, just immediately start to know how those numbers play with each other and what we were going to do moving forward. That's been great to watch.
That helps tremendously when you have a program like that. And really, I know your team's smaller. You only got, a handful of people, but everybody knows the situation. Everybody has the buy-in then to understand how to keep the ship going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some other lessons that you hope your clients learn from the situation in terms of what's next in the recovery? What are you seeing in terms of industries that are successful right now, maybe even ones that are struggling a little bit more?
I think the biggest thing that I hope some of the clients learn and some of the people learn is it's always great to have a cash reserve for helping. It's not always going to be the situation where the government's going to come in and help us bail us out of situations. So I know, we could be in a real disaster if the government had stepped in and help doing stuff like they're doing right now to help businesses. Just in general, start hoarding cash. I always say cash is king. And so if you can start saving and have some savings there for you and reserves for the next situation that may arise in the future, that's probably a great thing to do.
That's good. Yeah. So remember how you feel right now if you're struggling as a business, and be determined that the next crisis that occurs, what would happen? How would you react right now if you had a lot of money in the bank right now? And there are businesses that we work with that do have a pretty good reserve just for moments like today. There's actually opportunities that are out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities out there right now, but even those people that have a lot of money in the bank are still having to make those tough decisions on, for example, what do you do with the people that don't have any work? I mean, how long can I continue to pay them? What are my options for those employees if I can't continue to pay them? Those are all, those people are still dealing with the difficult decisions as well.
Yeah. And don't fight those battles alone, I think, is your core message here and our core message. Trust your advisors to help you with that. There's a lot of unemployment benefits that are as part of this CARES Act as well. So people actually, in some cases, are going to get raises going on unemployment in a lot of cases, actually.
In a lot of cases, that is the truth, Don.
So maybe don't be totally afraid of the furloughing. I mean, I hate to say that like that. We don't want to, but for a short term, I mean, there's a lot of options that are out there. Think a little bit differently, engage your advisor to be able to help you.
I agree. Engage that advisor to help you in those situations, because those situations and furloughing and unemployment also affect some of the programs that they came out with as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, James, I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to get a message out to folks?
Stay happy, stay healthy. If you need to call somebody you trust, talk to them, yell, scream, do whatever you need to do to get your frustrations out. But mainly, just hang in there. We're all in this together.
That's awesome. That's a great message. And for anybody that owns a business out there, if your accountant hasn't contacted you somehow through this crisis at all yet, I'd consider shopping around a little bit right now, because they should be contacting you and helping you. James and his team have been fantastic working with us. I know James has called me several times. David's called me several times, just checking in a lot of times and seeing how family's doing, making sure we're all safe and healthy. That's what we want to start with, is with each other. And I think there's a good side of this whole thing, is that you see community and people coming together. You start to know who your inner circle is. And James, you've definitely been a part of that inner circle. So
Awesome.
really appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Oh, my lunch is here. So
Mine's in the other room. So.
all right, there it is. Well, I'll let you get to it then. Thank you very much for your time today, James. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Don. Thanks for everything.